Lando Norris has become one of the most polarizing figures in Formula One. He's undeniably popular, funny, relatable, and talented, but for some reason, he also seems to catch maybe the most flack and the most criticism compared to any other driver on the grid. If he performs brilliantly, then that's just to be expected. If he makes a mistake or crashes out, then he's washed or mentally weak or not championship material. Top drivers make mistakes, but why does it feel like Lando gets crucified for his? Are we putting more pressure on Lando Norris than any other driver in Formula One right now? Much of the hate for Lando Norris seemed to really start in 2021 at the Russian Grand Prix. That was really the moment that kicked off much of the hate, and it also kicked off the no-win Lando movement that we still were seeing up until last year, of course, when he got his first win. In that race, it was chaotic, there was changeable conditions with poor weather, and Lando was leading the race. However, he and McLaren made the wrong call to not pit onto wet weather tires and stay on the slicks. The rain ended up coming even heavier, and unfortunately the win for him and McLaren slipped away. Most of the blame was put on Lando Norris's shoulders. However, it was maybe more of a team failure than anything. The team failed to give him more information that another bit of rain was coming, and with that knowledge, maybe he would have made different choices, and maybe this whole narrative would have been a lot different. From then on, McLaren hadn't really been in serious contention for wins until 2024, but the no-win Lando movement really continued and never completely went away. Fast forward to 2024, and Lando Norris and McLaren are in the spotlight. McLaren is, of course, back into the mix in 2024. The car is quick and able to fight for wins, and Lando is fighting at the front. With that, all of the scrutiny and a lot of the hate really ramped up big time. There are three elements that Lando Norris seems to be really criticized for. The first are his race starts, the second is his racecraft, and the third are his qualifying errors. Since Lando Norris was really consistently fighting at the front in 2024, that's where we see a lot of the mistakes and question marks over top of his head. We take a look at the race starts in 2024, where he lost out on pole position many times, and he got a lot of backlash over it for the season. We take a look at China of last year, Spain of 2024, Hungary of 2024, Brazil as well. All of these were issues with the start that caused him to lose positions and lose points in the championship. Brazil was doubly bad because he lost pole position on the start, and then he also botched the starting procedure and lost to Max Verstappen all the way back in, I believe it was 16th. So that was particularly bad for him, but that was a big theme across 2024 were his starts. While this year in 2025, it seems that the starts have been maybe a little better for Lando Norris, we also haven't necessarily seen him having the best starting positions in qualifying to pay much attention to know if he's really losing spots or staying or gaining positions on the opening lap. Next, taking a look at his racecraft, there's been several questionable moments for him over 2024 and even 2025 as well. First off, Austria in 2024 in the sprint, he completely left the door wide open for Max Verstappen to pass him, and he was really caught sleeping. I know it was just the sprint, but I think a lot of people were questioning his racecraft in that moment. Of course, also in the main race in Austria, some could argue that his racecraft wasn't so good when he crashed with Max Verstappen, but to be fair to him, I would most definitely put the blame on Max Verstappen. Continuing on in 2024, of course, we had Italy, where Oscar Piastri made the move of moves around the outside of him, and once again, really caught Lando Norris sleeping. Looking at 2025, we see even just in Japan, he really struggled behind Verstappen and he couldn't make a move. It seemed like Oscar Piastri was the one that was more able to stay closer to him and potentially make a move, but he just couldn't make it happen. I know it was difficult in the dirty air, but I think Lando Norris still could have potentially made a move. Most recently in Saudi Arabia, in 2025, he got DRS outsmarted by Lewis Hamilton, and he wasn't even fighting for prime positions at the front of the field. It was just a small thing where you think, okay, maybe Lando Norris isn't thinking outside of the cockpit as much as he needs to in this moment. Now, the third thing that people have been criticizing Lando Norris for are his qualifying errors, and we've really seen that flourish in 2025. Starting out in China 2025, he made a mistake at the hairpin, which really cost him pole position and cost him the eventual win as well. Japan also, I think he arguably should have been on pole. He and McLaren were definitely the fastest car, but he just couldn't string it together for an entire qualifying session. In Bahrain of 2025, another error left him starting P6 and didn't allow him to make up as many places as he would have liked. Most recently in Saudi Arabia in 2025, of course, he crashed in Q3, and that, is just one more qualifying error to add to his already growing tally in 2025. When mistakes stack up like this that we've seen across the past couple of years, it really starts to raise some real questions over Lando Norris. So let's look at some other drivers compared to Lando Norris. Do they get the same hate as him, such as Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, or George Russell? Let's take a look at Max Verstappen first. To be honest, Max Verstappen rarely makes any mistakes at all. Once in a while, he does have some misjudgments and does cross the line a bit, like in Austria and Mexico of 2024. But people generally give him a lot of backlash for that, and typically they are far and few between, so the backlash is pretty short-lived. George Russell, yeah, he's definitely been criticized as well. In 2020, he crashed under the safety car in Imola. 2023 saw him have a last lap crash in Singapore while pushing for the race win. 2024, he crashed out in Australia and blamed Alonso, even though Alonso didn't do a single thing in front of him. And in Canada 2024, he crashed as well and made some mistakes that might have cost him the victory as well. So he's had question marks around his mistake frequency for many years as well. Now looking at Charles Leclerc, he's definitely improved, I would say, over the past couple of years, but he certainly had his moments as well. We take a look back in 2019 with his Baku crash, where he famously said, "I am stupid." 2022, he had several mistakes that really dwindled his chances of the championship, but his spin in Imola was a big one. When he wasn't even fighting for the win, he was just pushing a bit too hard, spun, and lost a lot of positions there. One of the biggest mistakes was in France of 2022, where he crashed while leading the race, just pushing a bit too hard. During those moments, Charles Leclerc was really obliterated by the media during his and Max Verstappen's kind of title fight in 2022, I'm sorry. So yeah, it's not just Lando that's getting the hate. Others like Max Verstappen, like Charles Leclerc and George Russell have all gotten a great deal of hate as well. So are we being unfair to Lando Norris? Honestly, I think no. Outstanding results require outstanding performances. And if you want to be considered a top-tier athlete, you can't make costly mistakes as often as Lando does without criticism. Mistakes happen, but frequent mistakes form patterns, and patterns force us to ask the question, is he really championship material? Lando Norris is immensely gifted. I don't think there's any debate with that. But enough high-profile errors have occurred that it's fair to question his ultimate ceiling in Formula One. And maybe it feels like he's under more pressure because he's trying to be an all-time great in the form of Max Verstappen, who basically never puts a foot wrong. If Lando wants to win a championship, then he has to beat Max, and that means being judged against Max Verstappen. Elite sport is about being the best in the world. So yeah, Lando Norris has to be held to that standard, just like any other driver. What do you think? Are we being too hard on Lando Norris, or is the criticism fair game? Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more F1 content. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.